And we're here in the Garbage Goal podcast. It's Patrick and Colin Turner along with you again. And the Garbage Goal podcast, as always, powered by the Orlando Lacrosse Report. We have a special guest with us today. Super excited about having him with us. We have Elliot, who is a local ref here in Orlando for high school lacrosse. And super excited about hearing his story, how he got into reffing lacrosse. What he sees, as he refs during the season, maybe some funny stories, some things that we could share also for you parents to understand the rules a little bit better, which I'm guilty of, and I'll probably tell some funny stories about my ridiculousness on the sidelines, which has happened from time to time. But we're super excited that you're here with us, listening and viewing with us today. So, Elliot, thanks for joining us, man. We're so excited you're here. Appreciate you being along with us. You obviously live in the Orlando area. How long have you been in Orlando?
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I've been in Orlando for 3 years. I came from Oregon, so I came in June of 2020. So
okay, and you did not, because we were talking earlier, you did not grow up playing lacrosse. I didn't play lacrosse growing up. You didn't play lacrosse growing up. How in the world did you end up reffing lacrosse?
Dude, I've been repping sports since 1997. I've been repping basketball for 22 years. I did football, softball, volleyball, baseball, like every single sport needs an official. And then my buddy was like, hey, there's this new cool sport, lacrosse. You should get into it. It's kind of like soccer. It's kind of like hockey and football combined. And you don't have to run as much. And I'm like, sounds like fun to me. So I started repping lacrosse in Oregon when I was like 25 years old, and I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? And here I am. These balls are just flying at you, and they're hard as a rock, and you're just like, So, I started in Oregon.
So I'm curious. I mean, we'll go ahead and just get right into it. What's the hardest? You've reffed everything. I'm impressed. Like, I've only reffed, I think, basketball, and that was when I was in college, and I just did it for extra money. What's the toughest sport you've ever had to ref?
I'll start with the easiest. The easiest is volleyball. So if you want to make some hard cash, you stand on the podium, you blow your whistle, and you go 1 point. And the coaches, like Turner over here, he can't yell at you. And otherwise, you throw out a yellow or red card. So that's the easiest sport. Honestly, I think lacrosse is actually a very easy sport to officiate because it plays itself. I think the hardest sport to officiate, in my opinion, was umpiring baseball or softball behind the plate because there's no perfect strike zone, but everybody expects you to have a perfect strike zone. So that's really tough. So kudos to those people.
You better have the perfect strike zone if my kid's pitching. That's the way it goes.
Right? And it's just so tough because you got to change. Your strike zone's different because of the height and all that stuff. So I think that was one of the toughest sports.
So Ellie, you started reffing here. So you said you've been in Orlando for 3 years. So that brings you back to 2020, right when COVID was happening. So the 2020 season got washed away. 2021 is when we came in. Did you ever use one of the electric whistles?
Nope, never did any of that stuff. Even though when they made us wear the mask on, and I'm like,
I remember it. Yeah.
I didn't wear a mask, and I was like, it's too hot.
And to give some people some context, so I've grown up in this area. I played in this area. There's a lot of really good referees in Central Florida, even when I played what feels like centuries ago, to where they still are there today. And there's a need for referees. If there's people out there, and I'm sure Elliot will talk a little bit about this as we get into it, there's a need for referees locally today, right now, where we need people going. But obviously I coach at Winter Park High School, and Ryan Healy and I are not quiet on the sideline. And I'm handicapped deaf. If anyone's shocking that I'm very loud because
I can verify.
Yep, so I can verify that. You're making fun of my handicap, but no big deal. And you see this guy walk up with an A-class beard, as you can see. He's got a very nice one where mine looks like a meth head that hasn't shaved in a couple months. And we were like, oh, who's this new guy? He's got the sleeve tattoo, Oregon backpack. I'm like, this guy's from somewhere that I've never seen. And what I'll tell you about Elliot's very like a lot of the refs, there's a give and take when it comes to it. And we're going to give it to him so much as we possibly can. And then 9 times out of 10, the ref's going to look back and be like, what did you just say? And then you immediately shut up for a good 15 to 20 minutes. And then you get the good back and forth. So I'll tell you from a coaching sideline, and we literally, I think Healy said to you, like, can we go get beers after the game? Is that allowed? I don't even know if this is okay.
Well, I know being new to the association, I don't remember who I was repping with that game, and Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's games after, people don't care. And I found out being here in Floa, a lot of the guys drink beers with a lot of the coaches and they're friends with people, so it's whatever.
But it's been a good introduction into the Florida community, right? So getting in here, and obviously we talked about it with your job, being around reffing and having all of this kind of getting integrated into it's been a good move on your part.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I came out here and I didn't want to. I got tired of repping basketball just because it's so like having to be at the right spot and everybody's like picking on you and all the calls, and I wanted to stay repping sports, and I was like, I forget where I was, and somebody was like, oh yeah, we're part of the FLOA Association for refereeing lacrosse, and so I showed up, and they're like, yeah, we need people, and I just got back into it, and man, I've been probably like 9 years since I refereed lacrosse back from Oregon, so.
So what is so speaking to specifically, let's kind of break this down as a referee, okay? What I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about the player, reffing the player, reffing the sideline, and then reffing the stance, okay? So let's start with the sideline, okay? Let's start with the coaches. Now, I'm not going to call them out by name because I know them and they know me, but there are some crazy, insane lacrosse coaches in Florida, in general, in Florida, okay? I've seen it. Some of them coach my own kids. Some of them coach some of my friends' kids. Some of them coach kids I don't know. How do you deal with the intensity of a sport like lacrosse? Because in my opinion, lacrosse is one of the most physical sports that's played in FHSAA aside from football. It's very physical. And, there's a lot at stake, right? So how do you deal with it with a coach on the sideline who is, I don't want to say out of control, but is really giving it to you, right? Like, how do you manage that? Because you have a military background, right? So stuff doesn't probably faze you too much. But, like, what do you do in those situations? What do you say to the sideline?
Man, that's a tough question. I really think it comes down to how often you referee them, like showing up to a Winter Park game and you get a feel for people are like, oh, man, you got a Winter Park game tonight. You're in for it with Healy. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then, like, for 30 seconds of the game, it's like, So I think it really just comes down to, like, understanding who the coaches are, getting a feel for what they're about. And then as you get to a refereeing another game, you can say, hey, nice to see you, man. So I think it just really has to do with the mini games you get in repetition to see the same coaches and let them know who you are. And let them cry and moan when they first see you, and then just you banter back with them. If they yell at you, nothing's ever personal. You just gotta banter back with them, and that kind of quiets them. And then most of the time they just want to be heard. So if you just say, "Sure, I heard you. I recognize. I get you. I'll listen. I'll look for it." You just gotta talk to them. It's a simple acknowledgement, and then it's done.
And it truly is. I agree with you 100%. It's, Coach, I hear you. I'll be right back. You go through all the progression. If there's a stoppage in play and you have the conversation, it takes care of so much. It's when someone wants to make it, and I'm talking about myself as well, when I want to make it about me, it's the wrong way to go about it. It's the same thing on a referee side, right? When they want to make it all about them, that's not what the game's about.
Yeah.
Any moments come to mind from the last couple seasons on the sideline, a funny moment, something that's happened with a coach where you just kind of like go, oh, man, that's something I'm going to log in the brain for a while. That was a funny moment.
Before you say his name, I know what you said to me via text. Maybe that's the story you should tell without saying the name.
All right, so I won't say name. So I think this is my first year here or second year, and I was doing a tournament. So I think it was like high school kids, and I'm repping 2-man, and I forget. I was with Bob. Bob? Bob's the old guy, been around.
Absolutely,
super cool. And this coach on the sideline, he assigns games, and he has all these big tournaments, and I'm not going to say a name, but he's
not from Orlando, if anyone's curious.
Yeah. So I'm repping this game, and he's going at it, and he made a comment to me, and I said, well, that's too bad. In my opinion, this is what happened, and that's what matters. We started talking, and I forget what he said. I can't remember the word for word, but he made a comment, made it personal. So I flagged him, and I flagged him on that, and something else continued to go, and I said, you need to shut it down. Like, we're moving on. Move on to the next play. You have a disagreement. I've made my stance. Move on to the next play. We're not going to go back. And he said something else, and he attacked me personally, which I don't ever make things personal, but when somebody comes attacks me personally and says something, So I flagged him and I said, "You got 2 minutes to get out of here." And he was like, my partner goes up and he goes, "Do you know who that is?" And I was like, I don't really care. Don't care at all. He's a coach in this game. He's got to go. And he was like, "I'm not leaving." I'm like, "All right, man. Well, you literally are going to have your players are going to forfeit the game. I don't know what to tell you, bro. You got to go." And the other coach was from Jacksonville, and he was like, "Well played. Kudos to you." He goes up to the coach and he goes, "You're being a-hole. You're ruining the game. Go." And so he ended up leaving. But I got a couple texts from a couple of my FLOA partners, and they're like, "I can't believe you did that, bro." I'm like, "I don't know who he is. Like, what do you always say?" So
you're walking into this thing blind. You don't know the pecking order. You don't know what's going on. You're just doing your thing. I love it. I love it.
I'm getting paid to referee a sports game, and I'm just trying to get through the game, the next game, the next game, the next game,
Move
and
it along.
go home.
Move it along.
Yeah. So that was
great.
That was a funny story, and yeah.
Well, that's a great point. Are the tournaments? Can the tournaments be more difficult to ref than the high school games, or vice versa?
I would say tournaments are more difficult just because everybody thinks that they're there for a D1 prospect per college coach to pick them up. And unfortunately, in tournaments, that's highly unlikely. It's typically if you got a Lake Mary Winter Park game, the coaches from colleges might be there, but at tournaments, they're hardly there. And I think that the parents think for some reason, like if they lose a game, like the world is over.
Right.
So
that's a great point. It's a great point. It's such a great point.
Yeah, and the tournaments, like, people think, like, okay, you're going to get a trophy. I get that, but it's not the end of the world. And for some reason, the tournaments are way more physical than if you were to see, like, a Boone versus what's the team out there that really just sucks? I forget they're just horrible. I'm sorry.
We won't name that team. We won't name that team.
They're
way out there.
Yeah, it's like those two teams just beat the crap out of each other. That's what the tournaments are. They're so much more physical. It's like they forget the rules, and those are hard.
Yeah, tournament. How dare you do this?
Yeah. I know exactly, dude.
What a great point! What a great point, Elliot. Because it's like both my two oldest sons have gone through the recruiting process, and I'm sure some people listening to the Garbage Goal podcast right now, their son has gone through that process. I never heard a college coach ever ask my son, "Oh, what summer tournament did you win?" Or, "Oh, I saw you win XYZ tournament in Baltimore or in Orlando," or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, and that's what I try to tell parents all the time, quite frankly, and partly because, Colin and I both played sports here in Orlando. I did play lacrosse, but, like, to me, what matters more than anything is what did you do in high school? Because that's what kind of like carries you for the rest of your life, right? Did you win your district? Did you win your region? Did you win your state championship? Which I won a state championship. I don't know if you know that, Turner. I won a state championship in soccer, but
again, it doesn't count.
Hey, you know what? It's fine. I can outrun you any day. But no, I love that. I love that hearing that. It's so cool to hear that from a referee because I've been there. I've been in those moments where I'm taking it way too serious. And as I've gotten older, I've realized, man, I've been doing this a long time with my kids. And it's like, who cares? Like, we go to Naptown Challenge and, wherever, Amherst, Massachusetts, with Sweet Lax or True or whatever it is. And it's like, who cares if we win the tournament? Nobody cares. The college coaches do not care. They want to see if your kid can actually play.
Yeah, tournaments are just for repetition.
Yeah.
That's all it's for. You're there to go through the repetitions, keep it going, get ready for the upcoming season. If you crush the tournament, it's cool. If you score a ton of goals, whip-de-doo. And if you win, you win. But it's really about walking through the motions, repetitions, practicing, seeing other teams in physicality that you may not see here in Central Florida so you can adapt and make a difference in the next upcoming season.
Mm-hmm. So let's shift gears. I want to talk for a minute about players, right? So we talked about the sideline, talking about mostly coaches, right? So let's talk about the players. So what is the one thing that you see that high school players in Florida are doing that you're kind of like make you cringe a little bit as a referee? And or is there a funny story to maybe go along with that?
I would say honestly, it's the respect. I think that there's so much lack of respect nowadays, and I think most parents. I have an 11-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter, and my 11-year-old always wants to call me bro and bro and bro. Come on, bro, and I'm like, and it's like, at the end of the day, like I'm a person when I'm on the field, and I can have conversations. People are going to address me by sir, referee, and stuff. But it's like you make a call, and they give you that look, and it's like, oh, come on, bro. And it's like there's nothing. It's not a lot behind it, but it's just more like, hey, are you sure you saw that? I would just say it's more like that aspect of it. To be honest with you, I try to have conversations with the players on the field all the time. Like, hey, man, that was a great shot, great save, goalie. Talk to them, BS with them on the field to let them know, like, hey, I'm a person just watching you guys play, and I have to throw a flag, and that's it.
So, my question, and I know we're going to transition to one other thing, when you're dealing with the players in the field, has there been a call that you've made? And again, this isn't every referee. I'm not perfect in my day job, but I try to be. So again, being a referee I understand you're never perfect. But has there ever been a call where you're like, you made it, you're like, yep, I definitely messed this one up, but we're going to stick with it and have to deal with it?
Man, I'm in sales. If you can sell a call and you are absolutely wrong and you sell that thing, that coach is probably like, probably wrong, but man, that was a good sell.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. If I kick a call and I'm like way off, I'll run by you and say, that was bad. I know you won.
Yeah.
Like that was I was repping off subject on basketball. I was repping a basketball game back in Oregon. A huge tournament for girls. It's the #1 tournament in college. For high school, it's called the Oregon City Trails Tournament. And there's D1 coaches all around. And I called this really bad call, and I walked up to the coach. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I just kicked that call so bad. He was like, I respect that. He was like, yeah, it was, but I respect that. And he's like, you owe me one. So if you just have good conversation, it's just like, so that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I mean, we're not perfect. You're going to miss stuff all the time.
No.
Yeah. Well, here's the part. This is the part that I really wanted to get to, because I am going to soak all this up as a parent. I'm going to feel amazing amounts of conviction as you share this information. But what is it? What's the thing? And I guess part of the question is, do you hear stuff from the stands? Yes or no? And then what are the things you hear from, which is mostly going to be parents? What do you hear from us idiot parents yelling from the stands at you refs that you go, oh my gosh, I wish they would just shut up? Or even again, another story, funny moment that goes along with that.
I got 2 stories for you. All right. So I'm repping Timber Creek and Haggerty last season. And I know friends from Haggerty, and actually it wasn't the most recent season. It was the season before. And my buddy, his kid played on Haggerty, and he was in the stands. And it was at Timber Creek, and we're repping. And I think it was a brutal game, like back and forth, really physical game. And I don't recall what happened, but this mom in the stands drops, it's dead silent, and she goes, "That's bull S-H-I-T," and the whole stadium could hear it. And I'm like, so I threw it, you're not supposed to, but it was so loud. I threw a flag, and I go up to Trey, and I'm like, what is going on? He's like, I know, I heard, man. I heard. And I was like, but wouldn't that have been, it was like a pin drop with, nothing going on. And so I had to flag Trey. And I'm like, so the dean or whatever, the guy on site, will have to, go over there and, you guys can't do that. So it was crazy. Wow. And then another story, wow. I went up to Palm Coast and refereed a tournament up there, this past summer. I don't know if Winter Park was there, but did the Palm Coast tournament. It's literally the last game of the night, and I'm ready to go home. The fields are destroyed. It's pure mud. And these parents are on the side heckling. It's 2 people, 2 officials. We're trying to go up and down. And everybody thinks that because the stick barely brushes the helmet, they think it's, a slash. It's not. It's a brush. There's a difference. You got to catch that. They think everything's a slash. And they're like, oh my God, this guy doesn't want to call anything. His cool tattoos, bro. And so I went over, and so the coaches wanted a bunch of stuff called, and it's so even, it's ticky-tack, and I blew my whistle. I got to, I can usually handle a lot because it's thick skin, and I got to the point where I was just getting tired of listening to it. I went over to the coach, and I was like, Coach, if you don't go over there and tell them to knock it off, every time you guys pick up the ball, I'm going to turn it over the ball to the other team, and I'm just going to do an unsportsmanlike, and we're gonna do that way. And he was like, what? And he's like, but I was like, I would highly encourage you to go over there and talk. So they go over there and talk. and they kept chipping, so I turned it over. And you yell at the parents because parents don't really know what they're talking about anyways, and so you just throw it back at them. And I had a couple parents and said, hey, like, really appreciate you telling them to shut up because we were getting tired of it too.
That's great.
I'll tell you the one referee interaction with fans, because I've never seen it before, because you guys literally just shut it off and you're focusing on what you got to focus on. But Dave Sackman, the legend,
Sackman kills it.
Coach ref me when I played locally, still here today, one of my favorite people in the world. We're at a Winter Park Bishop Moore game. The game hasn't even started yet. We get through the playing of the national anthem, and then we're kind of getting the kids ready, and you hear this parent in the stands screaming. And we're all like, what the hell is going on? It's not a Bishop Moore parent. It's not a Winter Park parent. Dave walks over to the box and goes, we're not starting the game. I'm like, we're all ready to go. What is happening? And he's talking to the box. I'm looking at Healy. I'm looking, I think Hofstetter was the coach at the time. And Dave's like, that guy got to go. 25 minutes of the AD had to go over. I think it was the AD that went over and had to get them out of the field. It was a fan from another team that was still pissed about a call that Dave made or did something in another game. So we followed him to our game to be able to scream about it. I'm like, this game, I mean, it means everything in this moment. It means a lot. But, like, really? This is what we're going to do?
I was there for that. I can verify. Yeah. I can verify. I was there. Yeah, I was there.
I'm like, is that Patrick Moore up there screaming? Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's somebody else. I'm like,
I've had my moments at Bishop Moore, but that was not that moment.
No.
You know, Sackman does a great job on the tournament stuff because I'll be working on a tournament game with him. It's probably like the little kids, you know, like the 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and he'll go up before the game and it's like, my name is Mr. Sackman, and my counterpart, who's his first day on the field, is Elliot. We're your officials today. And he's like, you know, just to let you know, there's no one going D1 today at the end of this game. So y'all just enjoy the game, cheer for little Johnny and Susie out there, and have a blast.
Yeah. And you know what else he does that I really always appreciate, and I'm not gonna. I mean, I won't lie. I mean, I've had disagreements with him over the years in terms of some of the calls I have seen or haven't seen or whatever. You know, and that's just me as a parent watching my boys play. But the one thing that I have appreciated about him over the years with youth lacrosse specifically is he will go over in between the quarters and he'll walk up and down the sidelines and he'll go, hey, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody want to know what that call was? Or a call might happen right at the end of the game, or maybe it's like a situation, because you're right. The two things I see that parents specifically get wrong is ward and a hit to the head, right? So they think a brush is a hit to a head. And when a stick goes up and they don't call it and it happens to just go by the side of the helmet and they're screaming on the sideline, I'm behind them going, please stop, please stop. He'll come over and he'll say, hey, folks, just so you understand, the reason we didn't throw a flag on that is because da-da-da-da. And I really do respect him for that. And there's a few other guys that do that, that ref around the Central Florida area, which I think is a way that you grow the game, right? That's because those parents eventually are going to be the high school parents like me that, you know, are in the stadium going, oh yeah, I remember that. That's not a hit to the head. I just need to keep my mouth shut right here and cheer for my boys instead of screaming at the ref. So
100%. I think the biggest thing too with parents is like you either ignore it or you throw banter or you converse with them to an educational standpoint. The moment you chirp at a parent or you throw something in the stands that's too big for you, now you've opened up a can of worms, and now you have to go get an AD. So as much as it's like you hear some of the stuff that come out of the parents' mouths, it's like, what? What do you like? I don't know. It's just getting annoying. It's just
I get it. I a few years back, I think this has been 5 years ago, probably something like that. Colin will remember. We went to a school. I won't name it. A school up in Gainesville. If you remember that, Colin. And I think it was our spring break. And my oldest son was playing. I think he might have been in 10th grade. And they had a very good team that year. And we had a pretty good team. And we went up there and had a very tough contest. Went back and forth. I think we might have lost by 1 or something. It might have even been an OT game. But there was a ref in that game that, was, in my opinion, struggling to keep control of the game. Like, it wasn't even just, like, calling calls, but, like, it was just getting, like, the players were getting hot. the stands were getting hot. The sideline was getting hot. There was no control. There was no like, hey, let's everybody take a deep breath and calm down. And I remember in the heat of the moment, I was yelling and hollering some stuff. And I remember the athletic director from the school, a parent went over and got them. And the athletic director stood in front of me for the whole second half and just stared at me. And I think at one point he might have even gone like this, done one of those. And I was like, we're probably never coming back here. So just throw me out. Throw me out. Like I'm done. Throw me out. Just throw me out. So that was my only moment where I ever felt like I actually might get kicked out of a game. I've had moments, but not continuous moments like that. So,
and Elliot, you'll probably be able. I mean, I truly, and we preach this to every single one of our kids when we play. The officials will never determine the outcome of the game. It's not the officials that win or lose the game. Do they make a call one way or the other? Yeah, but it all comes around. It's all full circle. But the thing I will tell you, the referees can dictate the style of game that's going to be played that day. If you've got a referee that, and again, as you get to, and I know your style. I know how far I can go with you. I know where I can't go with you.
Sure.
I know, Mr. Sackman, I've got this much room to say anything before I get my face ripped off. But I love it. It is amazing what referees, and you can talk a little bit about this, is if it's going to be a physical game, it's going to be a physical game, but it's going to go both ways. If it's a tight game, they're going to call it tight. Everything's going to get called. And it changes the dynamic of a game. And it's a really cool ebb and flow as you go through it and how you coach through that. I mean, you've been on different crews and how it works out. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, obviously we get together before the games, we talk. Depending on who's playing, maybe the pregame's a little bit longer than some others. If we got a Winter Park, Lake Mary, for example, we don't have to officiate. The game officiates itself. We might throw like one or two flags here and there, or things of that nature. But if you got bruisers, we're gonna go in and be like, hey, the moment somebody does something crazy, throw the flag. And I would say like control and you got to set the tone. You got to control the game. And I think to your comment a moment ago, like players think that we are picking sides. I could care less who wins the game. I'm coming there to officiate a game, and then I'm going to go home. But the problem is like some of those players dictate how we continue to call a game because they let it get to them mentally. And, they might come up and say, you hate us, you don't like us. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I've never seen you before, But the problem is, too, is they'll make comments, and then it gets to them mentally, and then they start making these poor choices, and then they start slashing, and then they do the cross-checks and all that stuff, and then the flags fly, and then they're like, oh, so you hate us. And I'm like, I'm just throwing a flag because of your actions. I'm not doing anything else.
I don't even know you, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Bro, yeah. So speaking of throwing flags and cross checks and hits to the head, what's your take on football players playing lacrosse?
There's a couple of teams out there that got football players playing. I think Bishop Moore had a player last year. I don't know if he graduated. He was a football player, and he plays lacrosse too. You might know his name. I think it was like number 3 on Bishop Moore. But they get really bruiser. They they forget that it's lacrosse and it's a finesse game and the contact is secondary per se. Whereas football, it's like beat the heck out of each other, So sometimes you just gotta like talk to them and say, hey man, like just poke and lift, body check, bump them, but don't try to tackle the guy.
How do you see the physicality from when you ref games up in Oregon to Florida? Is it because again eons ago when I played here in 99 and 2001, when we went and played teams up north, it was the first time I ever saw the ball fly. You couldn't ever get and be physical because they were so fast with the ball. But when you got a hold of a kid, they didn't know what to do because they've never had that hard pressure. We're down here in Florida, it's a physical game as much as it is an athletic part of the game. How did you see the difference from coming from Oregon to Florida?
I refereed the lacrosse in Oregon, I think, for 5 or 6 years. It's been a little while, but from when I did referee, I would say it was more of a finesse game. You didn't see the hard checks and the full-on body contact because a lot of those games in Oregon from when I was there, the majority of the teams, like out of the teams in that area, were like 80% were solid, even skilled games. You'd have like the onesies and twosies that sucked or whatever, but the ball up there was just more finesse. Unfortunately, Central Florida, there's only so many teams in Central Florida that are good, and then you've got your 3 tiers. You got your really good schools. You have most people kind of hanging in the middle, and you got some of the bruisers at the bottom. But whereas, in my opinion, Oregon back in the time, it was like consistency. Almost everybody was really good, and there just wasn't as much physicality. It's been a while since I've been there, but I can't speak for currently. But when I did referee.
What would you say as you watch? Now, you said you don't coach, you don't ref college lacrosse right now currently, or haven't. But as I'm sure you've watched some college lacrosse, on ESPN or the national championships or some games like that. What would you say is some of the biggest difference, if any, in college lacrosse, what you watch versus like what you're reffing at the high school level, and not skill wise, but like the flow of the game or the physicality? What do you see?
Those referees, like, majority of them have an easy go because the game referees itself. You throw a flag on, one of the dudes from Notre Dame, they're already off the field because they already know that they committed the penalty. You're reffing a game in lacrosse, and you throw a flag, and Johnny's like
looking around.
Like,
who, me?
What? I didn't do anything. Yeah. So you watch those games of like Notre Dame and all those top-notch schools. The ball barely ever touches the ground, and if it hits the ground, it's on the ground for a second, and it's up. There's some big boy hits on there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen some hits on watching those games, but I would say the finesse just gets up there. And as a referee, I would love to do D1 because the money is good, and you don't have to do a lot, And if the coach from Notre Dame says something to an official, 99% they're right. Because they don't ever say anything.
Right.
Wait. So you're saying 99% of the time I say something I'm wrong?
Easy. Yeah.
He's saying you're
exactly.
He's saying you're 99% wrong, and the head coach of Notre Dame is 99% right. So big difference. Like big difference.
Yeah.
That's great. So going back over the last couple of years, as we kind of wrap things up, I'm curious. Is there any games or moments that stick out to you that you've had an opportunity to ref, playoff games or local games that kind of stick out to you?
Yeah, so actually, I got lucky in a sense. When I came here in my first year, I was trying to get back into the skill and refereeing and understanding everything because a lot of it left. I had to recoup everything and understand. So my first year here was kind of regaining everything, and then people took me to the wing like Greg Myers, Sackman. Mm-hmm. And all those top-notch guys, they're like, hey, man, this guy can referee lacrosse. He's super laid back. He's chill. So they took me under the wing, and they wanted me. So the second year I was here, I actually got the chance to do a bunch of playoff games. And then that year I actually got to do the championship game for the 2A, which was amazing. So
what
I've
game
been blessed
to
Nikes. St. Andrews and it started with the B, and their colors were
that was the 1A. That was the 1A.
You did the 1A. Yeah, you did the 1A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
That's good lacrosse.
That's a great game.
Yeah, so
that's very good lacrosse.
Yeah. And the nice thing about reffing lacrosse is we're so short-handed on officials, and we're trying to recruit, and I'm always trying to recruit people who maybe they don't want to go college or can't, and come referee lacrosse. I mean, you can still be part of the game. It makes some money. It's great on your resume. So I would encourage anybody to be an official. So if your game's over, your career's over, go referee lacrosse. You're still part of the game. Have fun. There's a lot of opportunity to move up. Whereas basketball, if you want to referee college basketball, it takes forever. I tried to go D1. My passion in life was actually trying to be an NBA official. I wanted to be an NBA official, make a lot of money. It's fun, but it's hard to do there. Whereas lacrosse, you can rank up super quick.
Yeah, I have a college teammate from college basketball that coaches referees Division I basketball. But we are now 20 years into it. I mean, he started right out of college and did high school, small JUCO. Then he did small college. I mean, we're 20 years into it, and he finally did his first ACC game, I think, a year ago. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's finally done a few NCAA tournaments and stuff like that, Division I stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's tough. But don't worry about it. If you'll hang on for about 3 more years, once I get my last son through high school, I'm going to come ref, and I'm going to throw flags on every single coach that I don't like or I do like because I want to. and they all know who they are,
Yeah.
especially in such a Florida area because I know most of them, and and then we're going to go out afterwards and have a beer. So that's how it's going to work.
Elliot,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that. How do you get into this? If someone wanted to be a referee and they wanted to do it, what is the process?
Yeah, great question. We actually promote it every year. We talk about recruiting. We have a website. So when you want to start ripping lacrosse, you just come over, you join the Flow Association, you come over, we talk about it, we see if you want to do it. You're actually thrown into some games that you shadow. So like they would be next to me, they would hang out with me, ask questions, and then I would observe them, hang out with them. They'll try to referee. If they don't throw a flag, I'm next to them. I can throw the flag myself, or if they miss and out of bounds, I can help them out if they get discouraged or whatever the case is. But you go shadow, you do trainings. There's you have to take a test if you do youth and high school. So it's not just, hey, show up and here's a whistle and flag and good luck. There's a lot of trainings. Joseph Heinzelman is our training official for the Flow Association, and there is in-person training, on-the-field training, in-class training, virtual trainings, and then on-the-field training. So once you start doing some games, it's not hard to pick up. It's just kind of remembering, oh, Schnikes, that wasn't over and back. Or, you get caught up and watching the game. You're like, oh, the ball's out of bounds. They don't whistle. So,
and they're not going to throw you in. I remember Sackman came to a bunch of our games. And again, when we were the heavy favorite versus different guys, he would be solo with two brand new refs. And obviously it was a high-scoring game, but it was an educational game where he was not holding their hand, but bringing them through it. And that's kind of how you guys do that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're basically attached to the hip for first few games. And, if you need more training, you can always say, hey, I need more training. Or we encourage them to go, hey, go watch a Winter Park and a Lake Murray game, or, see some seasoned officials, watch how they officiate the game, and then go watch, some games that are a little bit more bruiser to see how they control and set the tone of that game.
So I have one last specific question, and then we're going to wrap it up. So explain the rule because it drives me crazy. Explain the rule after a shot. After a shot, whose ball is it? What's the rule?
So ball goes out at the end zone. It's player the closest
at the
to
end
the
line.
ball.
Yes.
Yep. And not the stick. Not the stick. It's the player. If you kids are out there listening to this, if the kids are listening to this, it doesn't matter you stretching out to get your stick to the end zone, my friend. It is where your body is closest to the ball.
Thank you.
But
you just saved me.
And I don't want to hear from you this year on the sidelines, Mr. Turner. That was wrong.
But also a good thing to remind people of, it can be a ricochet. A shot off the goal can come all the way towards the box and go out that way.
That's true.
It's the closest player to the ball, which people don't. It's hard for them to fathom. They all think it's the end line. Who got
not just the end line. You're right.
Yep.
You're exactly right.
There's no players behind the goal, and the goalie takes one step outside. It's done. It's goalie ball.
Yeah, people don't pay attention too much. They get wrapped up and they try to beat it. The ball's already been out of bounds, and the goalie's already closest to it. And then they argue. And the ball's been out of bounds for the last 5 seconds. The goalie was closest. It's goalie's ball.
Yep. I love it. That's all I wanted to know.
How many total games will you ref in a season?
Ooh, we count playoff.
Yeah, just total. When you say I ref X amount of games this year.
Dude, when I'm repping regular season, Mondays aren't heavy with games, but I usually do double hitters. I would say probably every week during the regular season, I'm probably reffing 7, 8, 9 games a week at the high school level. And then during if there's stuff on the weekends, my max is 4 games on the weekend. I'm getting old. When I was younger, my niece could take reffing basketball. I'd referee from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and make that cash. As you get older, I'm 40, so all these years of repping, I don't like to do more than 4 because I can only take so much of the parents. My knees start to hurt, and I don't want to do anymore. I want to go home and go to the pool. But, I'm repping busy because we're so short. I think FLOA, and I could be wrong, I want to say FLOA only has 50, 60 officials. I mean, there's days where
I can tell you from our side, the amount of two-man two-man crews that we had, and even in big games, you referenced Winter Park Lake Mary, two-man crews blew me away how many we had this year because there just wasn't enough refs to show up, or not show up, there just wasn't enough people involved. And it's because, and I'm going to throw it out there, it's because parents and people and me and coaches, you're being over the top. Let them be who they are.
Let's be honest. It's primarily the parents. The parents are out of control. Yeah. The coaches can be controlled. If you're a referee that has some backbone, you can control the sideline. It's when the stadium and the stands get out of hand, especially, in my opinion, on the lacrosse side, the tournaments just burn, and the youth lacrosse, it just burns everybody. It wears you out because you have people screaming stuff. And listen, I've done it. When I was early in lacrosse learning this game, I would yell stupid stuff like Ward or, that's our ball, not knowing or understanding the rules. And I think that's a fault of the club not teaching the parents and the coaches not teaching the parents. But on the side, aside from that, you just have parents that scream. And, I had a situation where years back we were playing at the Palm Coast tournament, and there was a school that was playing behind us. It was a private school that costs about, a third of what I make in a year. And their parents were screaming at the ref. This went on for like probably 10 to 15 minutes of just screaming at everything. And it was a very heated game, and I get it, but it was right, everybody's standing right there on the sideline. They're screaming, yelling. And there was a point where everybody got super quiet, and me and my amazing comedic sarcasm that I have, I yelled, hey, if I paid X amount a year to go to school, I would scream at the refs too, because it's like, okay, if I'm going to pay $30,000 a year to send my kid to school, sure, why not yell at the refs? And I meant that totally tongue in cheek, but listen, there's moments where you got to, listen, it's sports. I get it. We boo the ref every once in a while, whatever. It just happens. It's part of the job. But this constant badgering of on and on excessiveness, especially when you don't know what you're talking about, just infuriates me. And so we've got to do better as parents to do better for our kids, for the refs and the coaches. That's only fair to them.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, there are no harder working people than having those refs come out. When you have a good crew that is dedicated to the game, it makes our game so much better. So
absolutely.
One of our past players' parents, Mr. Opresco, is a ref. I don't know, Elliot, if you've coached with him, but ref with him before.
Pete.
I like Pete.
Pete's the man.
I think he's allowed to ref Winter Park games. I think the moratorium of his son being gone now, he can actually come out.
Okay.
But he was so excited about the game after his sons played. He wanted to be a part of it, and he latched on, and he's now a ref, and he's loving it. And I think when my career wraps up or I get fired or kicked out or whatever, I'll probably transition into being a ref because it's a way to be a part of the game.
We'll have to vote on that one. Sorry, bud.
We're already overpaying him. He gets paid this much, and we're already overpaying him.
That goose egg. But
I got two stories. I got two stories real quick, and I'll let you come back in. Story one, in regards to parents, this is a basketball game, but it's the same concept about parents and sports, right? So I'm reffing a basketball game. It's a youth tournament back in Oregon, and it's like the weekend stuff. I think it was like 6th grade boys. They're a mediocre team. This kid falls, or he gets hit by his own player or something like that, and falls out of bounds, and he's laying on the ground, and the dad comes running down the stands, and I'm like standing there like this, like, here we go. And he comes down, he's got his hat on, takes his hat off, throws it on the floor, starts stepping on it. I'm like, what are you doing? That's your own hat, man. He's like, God, you guys, And I was like, are you done? Because your kid's over there. Go see your kid and get him off the floor. Let's go. Come on. But that's just a point, like, you're not only embarrassing your kid, you're embarrassing yourself as a grown man who's, supposed to set an example. And it's a tournament game. Who cares who wins or loses? I mean, the last time was youth tournaments. You're supposed to have fun and go home. And what do you do if you get a trophy? If there is one, to get at the end of the game. The other story was repping Winter Park with Turner and Healy. What's your other coach's name with the white belt?
Nick Fabiano. I know the story. I know where we're going with this.
So I'm repping Winter Park in Oviedo, at Oviedo, And I think I only knew you guys. This was
to give full context. Ryan is in basically a wheelchair in the shed, all the way on the back side because he couldn't get his calves wet at this time.
Yeah.
So it's me and Nick Pabiano, two guys that should not be in charge by ourselves without Ryan Ely. Continue.
Yes, and I think that was my first season. I can't remember if it was my first or second season, so I didn't really know them too well. And I think Healy came off the sideline and started saying, I'm like, okay, we're done. Shut it down. And he said some other stuff, and so I threw my flag so far in the air. And I had to hey, man. And after that, we made some banter about your buddy and his white belt and stuff. So every time we see each other, we're just making fun of his white belt. But it's just small things like that. You have fun with the coaches. Yeah, you flag somebody, but at the end of the day, you can banter and joke about it and make friends. And during the game, these guys will yell at me because I'm an official during the game, and I don't take anything personal. But end of the game, Turner and Feely are hey, let's grab a beer, or Mark from Lake Howell, he'll bitch on, excuse my language, to us as the game, and then after the game, it's hey, bro, nice game. And they, so it's game. The game is the game. When the game is over, we're people, and we can BS and talk. During the game, it's something different, and it's nothing personal. I would say as an official, the moment you take stuff completely personal, you lose all control of the game.
100% agree with that.
That makes total sense.
I can tell you the referees in Orlando, just like anything, right? You've got a lot of really good referees. You've got some new referees that still are dedicated. The fact that they're out there is you've got to pay respect. And the referees don't have any control over the game. They don't win you or lose you. At the moment, you get upset over calls. And my favorite thing is the banter back, right? As long as you keep it even keel, everybody's a part of it. And it's awesome because again, I think that was the game. Healy looked over and we were like, man, I know we just got a flag, but that guy's kind of cool. He wants to get a beer afterwards. I'm like, are we dating right now? We're in the first quarter, 4 minutes in. You want to keep this going?
Yeah.
That's great.
If you just have fun with coaches, Healy will yell at me from time to time, and then 5 seconds later, he'll just he'll start talking about something random, or if you just, it's all about communication. If you acknowledge somebody, they don't care. It's said and done with, things of that nature. But honestly, repping sports, my dad got me repping sports many, many years ago because I sucked at sports and he knew I wanted to continue to be part of the sports. I think officiating, I think anybody should try it. It's fun. Builds thick skin, and it's great on your resume. When you go apply for a job, working with different ethnicities, different backgrounds, handling hostility, being able to communicate, etc. It's really good. So absolutely. I enjoy it. I'll keep repping as long as I can, as long as I'm in shape and stuff. So
absolutely. Well, Elliot, listen, man, we are totally grateful for you spending time with us on the Garbage Goal podcast. I love hearing the stories, some funny ones for sure. Hearing about the life of a referee. We appreciate you. For all our listeners, if you have any interest in being a referee in high school lacrosse, college lacrosse, you got to get in. You got to get in there and just go after it. There's no better time than right now. So look into it, jump in. We can always use help. It's going to help the kids, help the coaches, the schools, and it's always a good thing. And you'll have a fun experience if you take it the way Elliot takes it. So we appreciate you sharing with us. We're glad you could be with us. So everybody, thanks for listening in to another edition of the Garbage Goal podcast. Yes, big round of applause for our friend Elliot. And look forward to seeing you next spring. And we'll see you next time. Yeah, we'll see you this weekend.
Yeah.
Yep, see you this weekend. So we appreciate it. Thanks, man.